Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're going to be watching this uh, webinar. Hopefully you're going to enjoy it, learn something useful. So today I've got a pleasure to sit in Bobby's practice. I'm probably going to remember Bobby from various places. You've seen him all over social media, and I'm pretty sure for all of the right reasons and good reasons. But I just thought when I've seen the interactions Bobby was having all over the internet, different Facebook communities, I will engage with Bobby and ask him to maybe do a little interview with me to see how we can maybe even spread the message even more, share your knowledge, share your experience, because you gained a lot of experience while you started your own practice, first practice, yeah? So before we go to nitty-gritty of what you've done, can you just introduce yourself to everyone and tell them who you are, where you're from, and what your passion, what your dream is?
Yeah, so sure. My name is Bobby Bhandal. From a place called Leamington Spa in the Midlands. I'm extremely lucky enough to have opened my own squat dental practice back in December, early January this year. Touch wood, everything's been going absolutely amazing so far. Been very successful, and it's been extremely enjoyable. You know, my passion was just to open a place where I could wake up in the morning, open the door, come to work, and just love where I work, be able to do the dentistry that I want to do, and have the full freedom that I want, you know, to be able to serve my patients. And luckily enough, that's what we've created. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Bobby. I really appreciate you sparing some time and obviously sharing the knowledge. I love learning from dentists because obviously I'm not a dentist myself, but I've worked in the industry for many years and kind of getting to the point where I get more and more dragged into various elements of running a dental practice. Normally I would be getting involved in the kind of risk assessment stages, but now more often people approach me and ask me how to kind of, how to set things up before they even begin the project. So I've come across your post in a Facebook community, I think that was a startup for dentists or something like that, where you shared some of your experience, some of the pains that you've been going through while setting up your practice. So let's go back to the beginning before you even, obviously you shared the experience there, but why? Why did you decide to set up your practice?
Yeah, so for me, it was mainly because I was working in an absolutely great practice. The practice was incredible, but unfortunately it was sold to a corporate. Things just took a bit of a downhill. And I'd always had the idea in my head that I wanted to run my own business, run my own practice, but I'd been looking for a practice for some time and everything was just very, very expensive. So at the time I had to make a decision whether to just go into private practice, just keep my associate job, or open a practice from scratch. After kind of doing all the maths on everything, a squat just seemed to be the perfect opportunity to do what I wanted to do. And I was fortunate enough to have a building locally to where I live that we could use. So right just at the start of COVID is when we took the decision and took the plunge. So the one defining day though that made the difference was when I was in my previous associate job as an NHS mixed associate. I turned up to work one day and my list was really stable. I was doing a few implants here and there. But at that point, I had about 40 checkups booked in. And I got to the end of that day and I just looked at my list and I just thought, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, it's going to drive me absolutely mental if I carry on. And I went home that night and handed in my notice.
Right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But at that stage, how long have you been working as an associate?
So
how many?
About 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah,
it took you some time to actually
yeah,
grow into that and decide to realize that actually
yeah,
I can do more than that, or I can do better than that. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I'd always enjoyed it until the corporate had taken over. But yeah,
that happens a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But I was lucky enough that my old principal was very inspirational.
Right. So he was encouraging you to make.
Yeah, he taught us a lot. He encouraged us. He helped me, and having that kind of figure above me, with a bit of guidance.
So obviously, as an associate, you don't necessarily get too much involved in the daily management of the practice, do you?
No.
Did you make that move maybe and say, I volunteered in your previous practice and say, can you tell me what you do here and show me how you do and whatever, or you just Had no experience at that stage.
Absolutely no experience.
So would you say, looking back, would that be wise to maybe say to associates out there who are thinking about business, start getting involved?
100%. Start getting involved, start learning about how practice runs. I didn't even know what the hell a compressor or suction pump was when I set the squat on. I'll be honest. I just turned it to work. I know I'll get air. I know I've got my drills.
It comes out from the pipe.
It comes out of this pipe,
yeah.
Didn't know anything. Didn't know what equipment you need. Didn't know where the pipe runs are, how it all works. Yeah, it's mad.
See, so some of the terminology that you mentioned, like compressors and pipe work and all that, and I kind of actually, when you mentioned that, that actually took me back to my first days when I came to this country. It was about 17 years ago. It's a funny story to me because basically, my English was very limited at that time. And someone said to me, it was a manufacturing place where I was working, building cars. It was part of Honda. And someone said to me, bring me a hammer. And to me, hammer was from, watching English, American movies. And I'm thinking, why is he asking me to bring a car? Yeah. And then they explained it to me, actually, it's a mallet, it's this. And it's kind of the terminology you learn when you start getting involved in certain things. So absolutely, that's my best advice would be to any associate out there to maybe get themselves more engaged and speak to practice managers and ask them what they have to deal with on a daily basis.
100%. Start learning how practice runs, speak to your management team, speak to your staff. Learn how things run, from the top down, rather than just turning up to work, doing your work and just going home 9 to 5.
Right. So you had a location, you found a location.
Yeah.
And what did you do next?
So
you obviously handed your notice as well.
Handed in my notice. Found the location. Next step was finding architects. So trying to see what we could do with this building. This building was a bit funny because we had some land on the back of it and there's some flats upstairs. So we had the potential to do some development work to it. So for us, it was a long process. COVID delayed things massively. So there was a 9-month wait on our planning permission.
Right.
And we had to obtain full planning for everything because we were doing a demolition, an extension, part commercial, part residential. So for a complete novice, it was a hell of a lot.
And I would imagine it gets confusing, especially because I work day in, day out with building control and architects. Sometimes they send me plans and I look at that. And how difficult it was for you to actually look at the plans or how did you decide which architect you're going to use?
So we actually had 2 architects in the end. So we had a specialist dental architect and then we had a local architect. So the local architect did the plans for the actual building itself. The thought process behind that was because he was local, he would know the local council, and kind of have an idea of what we'd be able to get through.
Expecting it.
And then we used the specific dental architect who we found through good reviews, who mapped out all of the inside of the practice for us. And they both worked together really well. It was actually a really good experience working with both of them. Obviously, it's not the most cost effective, which I realised going backwards now. But you learn. You make mistakes, unfortunately.
Well, that's the thing. But if someone else out there can learn on your mistakes, then obviously that's the shortcuts they can take by watching interview with you, and maybe even more, which we'll talk about later. So you had the architect, all that, and what was the next step from your interview? What did you do next?
So next step was to find builders. Find a build team, and that was fun.
How did that go?
Crap. So we had probably about 5 or 6 quotes. They ranged in price from there was about £250,000 price difference between the lowest and the highest quote.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, we looked at builders from the dental industry, builders from the non-dental industry. And in the end, we went through recommendations. So we decided to split it up into 2 phases. We used local builders to do the extension for us, the external work, and then we used dental builders to do all the internal fit out.
And I remember when I came to your practice, again, thank you for inviting me to help you with the kind of risk assessment stages. But I remember when I came here, you kind of, we talked about different ways of different ways of doing due diligence on your builders? Because I know you said you went for the from recommendation, but at that stage you didn't know really what you're looking for from a kind of legal point of view, and you just relied that the builders, they've got a van, they got a set of tools, they come in and fix it, and they fix whatever the previous guy broke, something like that along this line. So, you know, and we talked about various ways of kind of verifying contractors. So you do think going back, would this sort of things help you kind of decide what is the best?
Yeah, 110%.
Many people don't even ask for the insurance details of builders, and they should have their insurance.
Yeah, I never asked for insurance details. I never asked for registration. Qualifications, any registrations. I never even asked if they knew what any of the building regulations are.
Specifically on the HTM guidance, you see, I mean, you don't have to. The builders don't necessarily need to be quoting specific paragraphs, but it always helps when you ask them, do you know what HTM guidance is? And if they say yes, well, tell me about it. Tell me a bit more.
Yeah.
And kind of you pulling that information out without leading them too much, so you know if they actually know what they're going to be dealing with.
Yeah,
and someone looks at you and they blank, and it's like, well, how are they going to be building my dental practice? I'm supposed to be designing in line with HTM.
Yeah, and it's not even HTM. I mean, just CDM regulations.
CDM regs,
yeah, CDM regs. So we had a big problem with our practice. So unfortunately, we had a nasty neighbour who reported us to HSE, the Health and Safety Executive. And you know, the first thing they wanted to know was, you know, do you know what CDM is? As soon as you walk through the door, luckily I was here the day the inspector came, and I turned back around behind me, and all the buildings were gone. Literally in 2 seconds, they left the building. And I was like, okay, what's going on here?
Well, that's yeah. I mean, HSE, that's something again, that's something very close to me, because we deal with HSE inspectors as well quite a lot, and recently had an email from HSE inspector because they are looking to prosecute the company that was involved in one of the projects that we then attended to do a survey on the building to say, basically, you know, if there was asbestos or not. That was closely linked to asbestos management. So, so again, HSE, you know, the dentists tend to think we only have to worry about CQC, but when it comes to building a dental practice, you should really forget the CQC. That's my advice in the beginning. Focus on the actual foundations, which is basically starting from the building regulations. You've got your local inspectors, you've got your HSE inspectors that they could just rock up any time, especially when you've got a nasty neighbour reporting you. So it's important. And you've been doing the project management yourself, yeah?
Yeah, I was doing all of the project management myself. I was working as an associate 4 days a week. Right. I had one day I was on the phone every single day in between patients during my lunchtime. And it was just problem after problem after problem with the building work. We got through it. We struggled, but it was incredibly tough. All I can't stress enough is having good help around you. You know, you do have to pay for it, but it is worth its weight in gold. You know, for the advice that you get, you know, it will make your life so much stress-free that it's worth paying for it. You know, when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's not that much compared to everything else, and you know what your return on your investment will be. But you just need good people around you to support you. You know, Peter came in at quite a late stage for us doing some of our Legionella assessments. But you know, to have his brains in right at the beginning, it would have made a massive difference.
That's Try to save money as well during that process as well, because it's if you engage early enough.
Well, we would have saved, I think, £500-600 if we'd used it for our fire risk assessments. And before we bought our fire extinguishers. Not for the assessment, but buying the extinguisher.
The extinguishers. Fair enough. So you mentioned help, asking for help. What help would, if you could go back and change everything, what help would you get first? Like the most important help?
Yeah, I mean, the most important help would be, first of all, go and find a dentist who's done it, because they know exactly what you're going through. You know, it's stressful. They know the whole process, and no one else will be able to relate to you as much as that dentist can, because they've been through it. And then the second thing is, make sure you find the rest of the team around you who know exactly what they're doing. Go and talk to everybody that they've worked for. Make sure they know what they're doing. They'll work for other dental practices. Go to those practices, see what work they've done. You just got to go and find out as much as you can.
Yeah, I guess doing that drive by and have a look at, like someone said, I've done this project, or just drive by it and have a look from outside, and even maybe do a mystery shopping, go in and have a look what they actually done.
Exactly.
Do you like the quality or not? Because again, social media is great, but you have to be careful sometimes. Obviously, people show you what they want to show you. So
I mean, and just to give you an example, the builders we used to do our extension, they're local. I mean, the guy lives down the road, and they fixed bad work from another builder for some family of ours. So that's how they got our job. But that said, when they started ours, they were terrible. And we only found out when the dental guys wanted to start. We found out all these issues, and then to top it off, the icing on the cake was that we found out that they weren't VAT registered and they were charging us VAT.
Right. Okay. Well, again, so that comes back to due diligence process.
Exactly.
VAT registered. Where's your VAT registration number? That's the important element. So, companies, including my own company, we have to display that number. It's on an invoice. It's on the website. It's a legal requirement for us to display that. And
well, he displayed it. It just wasn't right.
But there is a VAT registration certificate that you should be able to produce as well as producing a simple number.
Yeah. Well, I just went on. You go on HMRC.
Yeah,
you can check
it. Verify it. Interesting. What was the HC case, or what happened then when they came in? You said.
Yeah. So HSE came in. They walked around. I mean, the first thing he asked me was, believe it or not, was when you started your work, did you have an asbestos survey done?
Very often happens the other way around. So basically, we get a phone call, and practice or business who's doing refurbishment tells us, look, we've done a refurbishment, we just need a survey now. So, well, it's too late a bit. And we've been in a situation where we had to send a surveyor to look through the skip to identify, because if that skip was full of asbestos, it couldn't go back. They have to back it up. It's just nightmare story. So the best thing to do is actually get it done right up front. And there is people that very often confuse two types of asbestos surveys. Okay, one is management survey, which is building like this. Someone comes in and walks around and says, no, probably not asbestos. But if you're drilling in that wall, be careful, because there might be something animal. The next level up is demolition and refurbishment, and that's the one that's the most important in a project like this.
So I can tell you another story about that.
Yeah, let's take that one later. Let's say that one other time. Okay. So it sounds like you have a great experience, and you would be able to, if you would work with another practice, maybe someone out there thinks, Bobby is probably the person I want to contact. You'd probably be able to save them a lot of time and effort looking around and save a lot of money on not doing certain things or doing something slightly different to they would normally do without experience. So now you had a practice, you had a project, you finished the project, CQC obviously. To be honest, I don't want to be talking too much about CQC, because to me it's a cherry on the top. Once you've done everything right, you get there. Compliance is really not something people should stress too much about.
That was actually a relatively straightforward part of the process for a number of different reasons.
But that's the thing. So the people you get involved, and then systems you put in place, the managers you go in place, and it's fairly straightforward process as long as you know what you're doing. Okay, and that's the way you might need some help. Like I'm pretty sure it's a compliance platform you're using. Don't have to name a specific one, but do you have a compliance platform?
Yeah, we use a compliance platform when they helped us out. They managed all of our CQC process for us. And it was really, really straightforward.
Good. So, and then staff, how did you go about finding people?
Staff.
I think that recruitment is one of the biggest
recruitment.
things.
Everybody goes on about recruitment crisis in dentistry. There was a big recruitment crisis in dentistry. I actually looked outside the box. So before I started, we put ad out in Indeed for our front of house staff.
Right.
I didn't care if they were dental trained or not. We found somebody who actually came from British Airways. She was an air hostess, wanted to get out, was looking to settle down in life. Amazing customer service skills compared to most of the nurses that we interviewed who wanted that front of house role. She just was spectacular in the interview. She would wow your socks off, and she didn't fulfill that role. I mean, patients come in and they absolutely love her. They write her name in all the Google reviews. My nurse actually gets really upset because everybody comes in. Everybody comes in and they mention her. Well, they mention me, but they don't mention her.
All right.
But that's just her personality. She knows how to wow people. And when you're building a practice, that is what you need. You need your patients wowed, you know.
Well, you're absolutely right, and you're also spot on in terms of looking out of the box, not limiting yourself to just the dental sector when it comes to recruitment, specifically.
Yeah.
Obviously, when it comes to a specific set of skills like nurses, unless you're looking for training nurse, then yeah, but otherwise you will obviously need someone qualified. But when it comes to front of staff, the reception managers, I don't think limiting yourself to dentistry is the right thing to do. Very often they bring the bad habits from other locations. Unless that you get a great manager or great staff from one of the practice who obviously care about what they teach them and things like that. But when you mentioned British Airways, that again brings me back to a little story I can tell you about. When I worked in a hospital, I was learning how to do standard operating procedure in operating theatres. And one of the trainings was from with a pilot from British Airways. So basically, before they fly the plane, they were kind of, how do we do it? What procedures we go for? And that was then translated, why do we go for standard operating procedures in a dental, in operating theaters before the operation, during the operation, after operation. So again, it's important, these people can translate, you can translate the skills. So, and I would imagine after COVID, British Airways laid off lots of people and many other companies out there related to traveling industry. So I think that was your jackpot, I guess.
Yeah.
I think there's people still out there. You just have to attract them with the right ad. Yeah. So how did you advertise? You said.
Yeah. So we just went to Indeed.
Indeed.
So, we advertised on Indeed. We had about 100 applicants for the front of house role, for the non-dental role. Nurse was a completely different story. Didn't advertise. I had nurses just come and asking me. So nurses that I'd worked for before who knew what I was doing and just wanted to come on the journey.
Right. Okay.
So I took somebody and she's been amazing. She's eventually going to become the practice manager. But I could not have done what I've done without her. I mean, she just stepped up to the role, managed all the compliance, and just took so much stress off my head. It was just unbelievable. But luckily, I didn't have to go out and find that. It came to me.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. So you've been quite lucky there.
Yeah, I think I was quite lucky there. But I believe that it's one of those things that if you're a good person and you do good and you do good work, people will remember you.
Follow you as well.
People will follow you. They like you. They want to be around people like that. If you're not like that, people won't want to come. So a lot of it's what you put out in the world will come back to you.
I strongly believe in giver's gain approach. There is this mentality. If you have that approach, giver's gain, people will give it back to you basically twice or even more. So you're absolutely right. So what's the next steps? Obviously, how many surgeries are you currently operating?
Yeah, so we've got one surgery which is fully functional. We're already at 5 days a week for that first surgery.
And how long have you been running?
So we've been running for just over 5 months, 5 and 6 months. So that surgery is pretty much maxed out now. We're booked up probably about 3 weeks ahead at the moment, which is fantastic. Sometimes I forget to realise how good that is because when I tell the people, they're like, that's really good for a squat.
Yes, it's great. But so what's the main source of referrals, like patients? How did you go about getting people through the door?
Yeah, so for us, there's a combination of different things. We've used a mix of Google ads, Facebook ads. For us, we're quite lucky. Our location has been amazing. We're on a main road. We've got big bay windows right opposite a supermarket. So we've got massive visibility, which plays a massive role. One thing I really regret, which we should have done a lot sooner though, was starting at SEO. That's something I really neglected, which Peter and the guys have been helping me out with. But even in the last couple of months since we implemented that, what's coming in from Google has increased significantly. Online is really important for us. It's a blend of everything because of our location. Now we're getting a lot of word of mouth referrals. Our service is so good that people are talking about us. We're getting referrals from patients who aren't even patients in the practice. That somebody told us that today. They've heard from somebody else that our practice is so good, and they told somebody else.
Okay, interesting.
but it's a mix of everything. You know, it's not just one thing. It takes time. You've got to plant the seeds, and it's a combination of everything that pulls it all together.
It's interesting because you did mention like paid marketing, which is, yes, it's important, but I also strongly believe that organic reach is probably even more important.
Yeah, our organic reach now already is, with our paid marketing, is 50-50.
Yeah, great.
When we're looking at it. And I know some of my friends who have conversations lately who own practices who are spending probably double to triple what we're spending on paid marketing, and not getting as good results.
You see because what I've noticed, because I live locally, I get to see your Facebook ads coming up on my newsfeed. Yeah. But I also see your organic posts when you're talking about your journey. And I think young dentists out there who's setting up the practice, it's important that they document that somehow, share that knowledge, not from the point of view like, oh, I'm trying to show another dentist how to build the practice, but actually sharing your journey, because people in the community around you see you there. You're a genuine person, and you've got genuine business here. And people, like I said, people watch you and think, actually, I like this Bobby. He pops up on my newsfeed. So, do you do any organic posts in your local Facebook communities?
Yeah, we do. We post in local Facebook groups, local business groups. You know, it adds massive value.
That's the thing, and not many dentists, I think, do this sort of things, and that's why I think you're quite successful on that front, because you're actually sharing your story not just with other dentists, but you're actually sharing with local communities, and people like to see that.
Yeah, people love a good story. That's one thing I've realised. And patients in this practice, they love the fact this building. I actually used to live in the practice when I was a kid in the flat upstairs.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so my parents ran a business from the same building about 20 years ago. And I used to live up there, and we talk about it all the time. And a lot of the patients that come here remember it from when my parents used to run the business, and they find it absolutely fascinating that we used to live here, and that now we've
the transformation of the building.
Exactly, the transformation of the building, how good it's made the area, how nice it looks. You know, they love to talk about it, and they love to hear about it. Oh. You've got to have something that you can tell them. You know, you've got to scream and shout about it. Patients want to know. Don't hide it.
Absolutely. I think there was another story you shared on social media, which wasn't completely related to. It wasn't related to dentistry at all. I think it was something to do with your skin condition.
Yeah, that's right.
What happened there? Because I remember that I was reaching, and you had lots of engagement.
Yeah,
from local people, from local communities. So what happened there?
Yeah, so about 2-3 years ago, after I had my COVID vaccine, my first one, I developed vitiligo. I don't know whether it was related or not. It just happened after that. I was going through an extremely stressful period in my life for a number of different reasons. I hadn't talked about it. In our culture, it's very significant. It's looked down upon, especially amongst our elderly population. I was always asked by everybody in my family, like, what's happened to your face? What's happened? Even my own granddad kept asking me, like,
that's the beauty of all generations. They're kind of stuck in their own way.
But to be fair, I mean, I was really upset at first, but after that, I got over it. I was like, whatever, it's fine.
But I think that's how you connected with local community, by sharing that story.
Yeah, when I shared that story, oh my God, I got so many messages. I got messages from people in my own family who said they've got the same condition, but they've been too scared to say it. Right. I still get messages now. I had a message last week from somebody saying the exact same thing. You know, that post was quite ages ago.
But that's the thing. We're digressing a bit from but I just thought I'd bring that up because that just highlights the importance of sharing genuine stories where people kind of jump on it, and it's like you had lots of engagement from local communities. Like I'm pretty sure I remember seeing that post in some local Facebook community where you share.
All it is that people want to know that you're a real person.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that. You know, they want to know a little bit about you, about your life. You know, you don't have to share all your vulnerabilities.
No,
but you know, if it's something that you think might help somebody else, then people like that.
Absolutely, yeah. So we talked about staff, we talked about location, okay?
Yeah.
And you're running at full capacity now, which is great. Good to see. What's the kind of next step? What are you planning to do now?
Yeah, so the next step for us really is just growing the practice. So Our second surgery is half ready, so hopefully by the end of this year we should have that second surgery being put in completely. And then after that, it's obviously recruiting, so building up the team. We have a therapist who joined us about 2 months ago. And again, her book is full, so she does 1 day a week, and that's fantastic. So it'll be a case of bringing her in for more days and then looking at associate dentists. So the plan is to build a team in-house where we can do everything. So, we don't have to send patients elsewhere. So that's the ultimate plan for the practice. And then as a kind of spin-off to this, I was getting a lot of questions from other dentists asking how the hell I set this up because they wanted to do something similar. And I got so many messages. I was on so many calls. My wife got really, really annoyed with me, and she was like, "You're giving so much time away, but you can't actually give that much value to people because you're just doing a call here or there." So I decided to actually set something up. So we've been running the course for about the last 2 months, just teaching a group of dentists who want to open their own practice. And it's been absolutely amazing. It's been incredible. The feedback's been great. The guys are going to be coming down to the practice soon to visit us and see what we've done here. And it's just phenomenal to create another community of like-minded people.
Well, that's the thing, so because kind of sounding boards, you're getting together and coming.
I'm learning so much from them that even I didn't know. I mean, some of them already own their own practices, but they're looking at doing a squat. But I mean, we had a session on marketing the other day, and it's just invaluable. I give my input, how we've done what we've done. But I'm learning just as much from them. I'm learning just as much from them. Some of them have different businesses outside of dentistry, and they're bringing their experience into it. And we've got a group that's really, really active. They're all messaging each other. They're all helping each other. And
right. So that's kind of you're transitioning from being dentist in your practice now to become a mentor and kind of coach. Maybe you don't like to use the word coach, but that's what you do, like teaching people how to start their own journey.
Yeah, and I mean, it happened by accident. It was never planned. I never thought I would be privileged enough to be in a situation where I can help other people. I still find it surreal that people come to me and ask me questions.
Yeah,
I'm just like your average Joe dentist. I had a vision and I made it happen. But to me, I still find it surreal that people want to know, come to me and learn. But at the same time, when I look back at it now, if I look back, I wish I had somebody who could have helped me as much as I've been helping these guys. Because for me, it would have saved me a ton of money, number one, a ton of stress, a lot of headache. And, we've been successful, but if I had that person, probably would have been doing even better than what we're doing now.
Well, you can't really kind of trace back and try to change the past, but that's the thing. Now you've learned the lesson, and you're not going to make the same mistake as others maybe do, holding back. So you're sharing the knowledge as much as you can. And to be honest, I'm a strong believer in again, givers gain. The more you give out, probably going to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open and honest with the guys. I tell them absolutely everything about the practice. The thing that they want.
The most important things you can share is their mistakes.
100%. Yeah.
Tell them all of the success stories, but the reality is they will make their own success. It's all about you sharing your mistakes so they don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
So good, interesting. So I think it's been a good few minutes we've been doing this. I think we can maybe do a follow-up interview going forward, and focus on a very specifics maybe in the future. Just to see how we can maybe get more people to learn what you did and how they can copy that maybe, or copy and make it better. Yeah. My approach is usually, I don't know, are you familiar with Kaizen? No? Continuous improvement. It's coming from a Japanese terminology. Kaizen, basically, it's all about continuous improvement. So whatever you listened and learned today, guys, from this session, from Bobby, take it and shred it to pieces, learn how to do better. Basically, that's like everything you do in dentistry, I would imagine it's all about improving your skills.
Everything is just about growth. Every day we come into the practice, we have a huddle, and I ask the guys, what can we do better today?
Right, so tell me a bit more about your huddle before we finish. So what do you normally do during the huddle?
Yeah, so we have morning huddle every single day. First thing is just checking with the team. The team's only small, but I always want to know, how are you?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? Anybody got problems? Does anybody need anything from me? You know, that's really important. We'll go through our day list. We'll talk about every patient that's coming in that day. What do we need to do for each patient? Are we prepared? Have we got everything in place? End of treatment protocols. You know, do we need to get Google reviews? Do we need to get any video testimonials? We'll mark out each patient and plan the day, essentially.
Awesome.
And you know, we have it set in our mind every morning. This is how our day is going to run. Sometimes it doesn't always go like that way.
Visualize it.
Yeah, visualize it. But we have a little bit of, you know, morning motivation. I'll tell you one thing though, we were doing it in the office, and I sacked that off this week for the first time. I was like, we're coming out here, because the phone starts ringing, or you know, the girls start checking the computer, see what's going on in the day list or their emails. And I'm like, no, now we've got 100% focus. We're out of there. This is what we're doing. It's important, and you know.
I tell you what, we could drag this interview for much longer. So some of the things I could ask you. There's one final thing I want to ask you. Sitting here in your reception, it's a lovely reception, lovely practice that you've built. And what I've noted, you don't have a reception desk here. So when people come in, what was the thought behind that?
Yeah, we don't have a reception. So the thought process behind that is everybody, when they come to a dentist, is really, really anxious. They hate coming in to see us in general. So our thought process was, let's make the place completely, you know, not like a dental practice. They come in, then meet and greet at the door. It's all on video. They come in, they're in the doorbell. We let them in. We can see who they are. They come into our reception lounge and they get to relax. And they absolutely love it. We've got a back office where we do everything else, all our phones, payments. But this was probably one of the best decisions. It's definitely in the top 3 of everything we did when we set up the squad.
Interesting, because you know, when people post on even the startup for dentist group, people post plans of their practice, and they say, "Oh, where would you put this? Where would you?" They kind of trying to, you know, come up with ideas how to design the practice. Oh, I've got this canvas. How do I design it? And finally, enough, one person kind of, I don't know, I was probably bored in the evening, so they posted the plans. I took that plan and I redrew that on my iPad, and I turned that into 3D model. And then I posted screenshots of that 3D model, and all of a sudden I had people messaging me saying, "Can you do that for my practice?" But I said, "Yeah, I can." I wasn't even charging for it. I was like, "Well, why not?" Yeah, but as long as it's not taking too much of my own time, family time, and the business time, I do 1 or 2 favors just to kind of, I get my experience out of it. You get your plans, and that's why I did. And many people were so obsessed about putting that round desk or desk. People working there, it must be a desk. And it's like, why don't we just get rid of it? Hide that somewhere and have that meet and greet, you know, 1-to-1 or whatever, having someone when people coming into the practice, someone maybe standing there and greeting them, saying hello and recognizing them straight away and knowing what they for. And you know, you see, without all of that kind of desk formality where receptionist sits behind the desk and then the patient looks over them or something like that. So it's interesting that you've done it the other way around. You hiding the reception and all that. Boring things that people don't need to know about, really.
Yeah, it's all about patient experience now. You know, patients want the maximum experience. And, you know, if you want to get them to buy into you, we've got a demographic in this area where we're not massively smile design type patients, but we have a huge amount of patients who have really high restorative needs and are happy to pay for good quality, you know, private dentistry. But they haven't been to a dentist for 10, 20 years. But they walk in here and we come out here, part of our consultation process, we have a whole system. It all starts in this room here. We don't take them straight through to surgery. You know, I will come out and speak to them in this room, and I will make sure that they're comfortable enough, you know, when we go into that surgery, that they're going to be happy to get in the chair.
They don't have a phobia of sitting in
the chair.
They don't
have a phobia of sitting in the chair, when they haven't walked into the practice for 20 years.
Right.
You know, it takes a lot of thought, a lot of process, you know, a lot of how you're going to speak to them, a lot of training, communication skills, but it's possible, you know.
So what training did you do on the communication side of it?
Yeah, I mean,
formal training, or you just watch tons of videos on YouTube? How did that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, communication is literally just experience. You know, taking a little bit from every single course that I've been on. Most of the courses that I've been on have been clinical, but on all of those courses, you learn something, you know, towards communication.
Right.
Where I worked in my old practice, again, I was fortunate enough to work with a great group of dentists who were extremely good, at communication, and I was able to sit in and learn from them.
Awesome. So observing others and finding your own ways. But that's why kind of some people would take a bit longer, some people would take less time. So it's all about when you're ready, make that move, start the practice and go for it.
But the number one thing is, I think you learn that communication side before you open your practice, because it will maximize your sales in your practice. And if you can't do that, cash flow is a massive topic on its own in a squat practice. But when there's patients that come through your practice, you've got to make sure that they convert and you do the best for them. But if you can't do that for them, it's a big problem.
So you mentioned cash flow. I would imagine you cover that during the training courses you do.
Yeah, we go through
cash flow. That's great. Look, what we're gonna do is once we got the video ready, we'll publish that throughout the different channels. In one of them will be Dental Practice Management Solutions, and I'm pretty sure there will be other Facebook communities who welcome your content as well. And if people do have any questions, are you happy for them to reach out directly to you, so you can basically engage with them? And if they, anything related to setting up the practice?
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Anybody wants any help, any advice, anything you want. If you just want to ping the questions, more than happy. You can contact me. You can just find me on social media, Bobby Bhandal, or our Practice Avenue Dental Practice.
Yeah. I will definitely pin your practice on. I'm not a big fan of Instagram, but I will kind of put all of the links necessary for people to be able to kind of get hold of you. So if you don't mind to answer maybe one or two questions, if people drop a post on an actual video once it's out there, it'll be amazing. I'm pretty sure people will get some good value from it. And if you guys have any questions related to this video or any burning questions you're setting up your practice, and if we haven't covered that just yet, like I said, we might be able to do in a follow-up videos in the future. Feel free to drop them under the post, under the videos, and I'm pretty sure Bobby will spare a couple of minutes to answer them, and I'll be able to help as well, so certain questions as well, so anything related to building site safety and health and safety and risk assessment side of it, I'm happy to share the knowledge as well, because that's how we roll. So thanks a lot, Bobby, again for a nice evening, and I appreciate your time. Right, Bobby, can you show us around your practice?
Yeah, great. So this is our reception lounge. So patients come through the front door and they're allowed to enter here and just relax. So we have, as I said, no reception in here, there's no phones. We just have relaxing music. Patients come in, have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and they just relax and enjoy the world go by outside. As we come through, we just have our toilet here. So we've got full disabled access in the building, so everything's DDA compliant, which is really important when you're setting up a squat. Our first surgery, which was kitted out, is this room here. So again, we've got a screen up there which is connected to our intraoral scanner. It's very relaxing in here. Amazing.
Nice and spacious as well.
Yeah, it's spacious, it's a good size, and patients love the cabinetry. It's a bit different to the usual, and it just sets the tone. Plus we've got Velux up there. Patients love the fact that they can just look up and look at the clouds go by.
See the sky,
yeah, see the sky.
Especially when you recline the chair.
Yeah, when you recline the chair. I mean, we did consider about having TVs, but when we
that's much better than the TV.
Yeah, when we spoke to patients, they're like, when you're having stuff in your mouth, how much can you watch a TV and concentrate?
Yeah.
And then this is where we have our back office. So all of our payments, we run consultations from here, telephoning, everything happens in this room here. So it's going to be redesigned a little bit and upgraded, but this is what we use at the moment.
Awesome.
And then down the rest of the corridor, we've got another 2 surgeries which are waiting to be built. One in this room and one in this room. Everything behind here was all part of the extension. So we have a CT scanner in this room here, which is used for all of our implant work.
Nice.
And OPG. And then everything at the back of the building is just for staff. So we just have staff room and our decon.
Awesome. Great. Thanks a lot for showing us around.